part of it. Yeah, it's David. I said I only have two. I only have two in the bag. I've still got cash to give you for the chips. I don't do cash. I might transfer cash, only cash. Send me details, I can transfer the cash. You're not flying back out. I'll get you back. Sorry, this will put me on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the West Craven Area Committee. It's a meeting of Pendle Council. We've got certain rules, and one of those rules is speakers on planning applications have to give notice. I've only got one speaker here tonight, and I can't see his name. But Mike Hughes is the agent for the planning application that we've got. I'm going to start with introductions. My name's David Whitt. I'm a councillor for Earby Town and I chair the committee. If I go to my left.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Walker, Assistant Director for Operational Services, Area Coordinator for West Craven Committee.
Good evening, Neil Watson, Assistant Director for Planning, Building Control and Regulatory Services.
Good evening, Mick Strickland, Councillor for Barnoldswick.
Good evening, Susan Land, Councillor for Earby and Coates.
Councillor Whip for Barnoldswick Ward.
David Hartley, Councillor for Earby and Coates Ward.
Angela Mayers, Calbrook and Sough Parish Council.
Rose Wilson, Salterforth Parish Council. Joan Eccles, the Committee Administrator of Pendle Council.
Thank you very much. We have apologies from Councillor Chris Church, who's holidaying somewhere exotic like Holy Island or something like that. Have we any further apologies? No? Thank you. First item on the agenda is declaration of interests. Has anybody got any prejudicial pecuniary interest? No? Okay. Item 2 is public question time. This is an opportunity for members of the public to raise issues that aren't otherwise on the agenda and ask about those, as long as it's something to do with West Craven. I do have an answer, because at a previous meeting I was asked about Earby Memorial Park and locking up of gates, and came to me after the meeting that the person who said that was somebody from the football club, and they were talking about locking the gates on the tennis courts, and they just said, lock them up and don't bother looking after them. And I think that's where that one came from. Are there any questions from people here this evening? No?
Yes.
We'll move on then.
Yes.
Sorry.
Can I just ask, I don't know whether this is acceptable, but you just said that people can't talk unless they give notice. Why then is that not made clear outside this meeting?
Okay, well, it says it on the agenda, on the front page.
I got your Facebook link. We're talking about these issues tonight, if you want to come along, but nothing about rules or regulations of who can can speak and when you can speak.
Okay. I put the link on for the live stream on Facebook and said what items were on the agenda. I didn't say come along and you can contribute. On the planning issues, we have a rule that says you have to give notice by 12 noon of the day of the meeting. Apart from that, on other items on the agenda, I can bring people in. We've only got one person who's given notice on the planning issue, and he'll be speaking shortly.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So, moving on to the minutes. Would somebody move those as a correct record? Thanks, moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favour? Item 4, police and community safety issues. And we have Rich here, who is Rich Riley, who is Police Community Support Officer covering West Craven. And Rich, if you want to come and take the hot seat.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm practicing a bit of social distancing this evening.
He's practising social distancing.
That's what I said. I'm practicing some social distancing because I have a cold. So you have to excuse me. So I'm going to try it out. I've got some gel. You know, I'm not mad. It's only bar cold. So, Chad, how can I help?
Rich, we have you been to one of these before?
Yeah, the last one.
You came to the last one. There you go. So generally, there's a recap of the reported crimes that have happened in West Craven, and we'll raise community safety issues and take it from there, really.
No problem. So, reported crimes in 8 weeks, January to March 2025, were 153. And that doesn't include public safety, road-related or administrative jobs. Essentially, that accounts for ASB, nuisance, personal and environmental. Compare that to the same period last year, crimes were 146. So for this period, 8 weeks, January, March, this year, 153. For last year, 146, using the same inquiry to our database. And social behaviour on its own for January 25 was 27, and social behaviour on its own was 27. And for February 25, I'm afraid to say it's up to 32. The reason for that, I think, is because we've been encouraging people to report these crimes. As you know, David, I've spent a lot of time saying we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it. And I'll illustrate this by saying that in February 24, there were 9 crimes reported. That doesn't mean the crimes weren't there. The crimes were probably there, and I bet they're in their 30s. But for some reason, we just weren't being told. So there we are. Happy to take your questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got a couple of issues to ask you about, but thinking about the figures, are there any patterns that are apparent and that we can help to address them?
You have a beautiful town. Barnwellswick, it's fantastic. You're probably the best nighttime economy, I would say, in Pendle, from the variety, creative nature of the bars, and you've got the coach, you've got Waxing Taps, beautiful little breweries. What you don't have is a massive crime surge associated with the NTE, and that's surprising to me. I think that's quite odd. I'd expect people to be turning out in bars and pubs at 11 o'clock, like the places I used to patrol, and getting into trouble, but they don't. And that says something about the nature of the people that are living here as well. What we do have is about 10 or 15 young and older people who persist in making trouble around the town. My priority this month, and most of my priority last month with my inspector, is to try and manage that. Other teams in Briarfield and wherever, they have different priorities. Their priority is shop theft, and actually their priority is road safety at that. My priority is one thing, and that's antisocial behaviour. We've seen an uptick in February, I'd say 32 as opposed to 27. You're looking for patterns. I think these are patterns at weekends and at dry times. We did have quite a lot of snow in January, and people don't like to go out in the snow, although that, again, the snow causes its own issues and people throwing snowballs and silly things like that. We've also got a tiny problem, and an evident problem, with people riding electric motorbikes and electric scooters. And I know this is causing a problem with the community, and I know it is because that's almost the first thing that people talk to me about when I meet them in London, wherever I meet them. And the question is, what are you doing about this? And the answer is, as much as we can. Because my answer is always the same. What happens, you think, when they see me come along in my yellow jacket? They flipping do one, don't they? And I can't chase them. It's not in these boots. So we have to rely on information coming from the public. We have to rely on the public telling us who these people are and where these vehicles are stored. And then we can go and do something about it. And we can also use covert means as well, which I'm not going to tell you about. I know from minutes from the last meeting provided by Joanne, thank you very much, that Paul Mead said something about police taking time, but we're always doing what we do. That's very true. I like to say the police wheels turn, they just turn really slowly. In fact, they turn a lot slower than you might expect, but they do flipping turn. It's funny when you knock on somebody's door and you say, I want to talk to you about something that happened in July of last year, and you go, July of last year? What are you talking about that for? Because they've done 15 things since then. But we've got investigations that go back to July and further on than that. And I wish you could see those faces when they're hauled away for something they did 6 months ago. That's the good one. So patterns, they're the kind of patterns that anybody would recognise. They're not difficult to guess. It's easy. It's night time, it's after 4 o'clock, dark hours, dry weather, opportunities like e-bikes, a little bit of what we call juvenile nuisance, and that raises please. I'm disappointed that the calls are 32, but on the other hand I'm quite happy because I think it's realistic rather than unrealistic.
Okay, thank you. When I saw you earlier, we touched on the quads and just for some councils' benefit, the e-bikes that we're talking about is more like a scrambler type bike.
Yeah, you might recognise it as a trials bike.
Yeah,
very lightweight. Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the incidents was this trials style bike razzing on next to the bus shelter.
That's right.
On Station Road, kicking mud all over it, but unfortunately
kicked a rock up at the same time.
It's resulted in one of the panes of glass being broken, and it's going to be several hundreds of pounds to replace that.
Fortunately, they've done it right under the CCTV, and one of my jobs tomorrow is to go down to Blackburn and have a look at that. So that investigation is in process.
Good, thank you. Now then, our MP met with the divisional commander, and the MP announced that the divisional commander had told him that as from the beginning of March, West Craven would have a community beat manager. Now, I've yet to see this community beat manager, and I wonder, Rich, if you've seen this community beat manager.
I haven't yet seen this community beat manager, Chairman. I had a meeting with my sergeant just yesterday morning regarding this. I'm not going to talk out of school. I don't think it's going to be the beginning of March. I think it'll be a couple of weeks.
Okay. All right, so we've been misled by one of our elected representatives. Okay. I've got nothing further. I think the principal issue is the ASB, the concern that people have about the trials by razzing around. Mention quads because there is an issue with those, and I have still got to send you a picture of one of the people razzing around on quads.
And that's exactly what we want, David. Any information is good information. It all adds up to a picture. And I always say this: it's a tall poppy. Somebody gets too big, they get recognised, and the tall poppy gets generally chopped off, if you like. So we need pictures to find out who these people are.
Thank you. I'm looking over here. Mick, do you want to come out with your usual?
My usual one. Yeah, Rich, it's nice to meet you. It's the first time I've met you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm not going to give you a barrage of everything, but meetings have been missed. There was no representation at the last meeting, and we haven't had any report sent through for this evening for us to look at prior to having a discussion with you. And I know you're static outside, and I don't want to give you all of it, but not too long ago we were sat in front of the inspector here, and he promised us that we would receive an itemised list of issues, a solid action plan as to what we're happening around it, so that it gives us some sort of ammunition, if you will, to speak back to residents to find out what's going on. And
100%. Yeah.
when we get nothing at an area meeting and no representation, it just leaves us hanging that we've not done nothing.
Yeah, I get it, Mick. Absolutely, I don't disagree with you. It's not a good look. I will take that message back and talk to my CBM currently, my sergeant, and hopefully that message will go upwards. As you say, it's not great, and it's not a good look. So thank you for raising that. It's good to raise it.
Every officer that attends it will get the same story from me, I'm afraid. Until we get to the point where we've got what we need to be able to satisfy people out there to be able. And it's not about solving the crimes; it's about getting the reporting numbers up. Like you said, numbers are down 1 month, but that doesn't mean the crimes are down.
There's always going to be crime. It's as long as the world. I'll also say that it's great to meet you. It's great to meet the councillors, because what we do is partnership. Police don't work on their own. We can't do our job on our own. We partner with the people represented by yourselves. And that's our core. So this kind of meeting for me is really, really valuable. And so I'm sorry that I've got a bit of a cold and I'm staggering through it. Blame the people in my office.
Councillor Hartley.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, Rich.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
It's great that you mentioned the beautiful Barnoldswick. It's really nice.
I believe it.
Have you yet visited Yorkshire's best kept secret, Earby? We haven't seen anybody on the streets in Earby, and I think it's a disappointment with all every, I know we're just over the hill and out of the way, so it'd be nice if you could come down and let the people of Earby know that you are around and have some trust in you, and so they can then start reporting things. We are pushing everything on Facebook to report every misdemeanour that does go, and it's going to take a little while for people to get there, because until we get Earby into a red zone, then it's they're not going to take notice of us. We had a spate in 2024 of camper vans being stolen and work vans being stolen from the ranch and from all around Earby. Have we, I know not specific cases, but any updates on whether anybody's ever been found or at all?
Thank you for those points. The first point I shall make, my bus, which I take back every night, goes through Earby, and almost every night I get off the bus and I walk around. So I will rebuff you there.
That's, I just say, I haven't seen you, though. I'm right opposite. What time you get
maybe,
on the bus?
maybe you're not on the
What time's
streets.
your bus?
Maybe you're not on the streets at 8, 9, 10 o'clock.
Oh.
But that's where I am. That's where I am.
Yeah.
And I do walk up and down Station Road, Victoria Road, and I do meet people, and I do visit the shops. And if you want into the car on Station Road, just have a word. They'll be really happy to let you know
But, yeah,
I'm in there. My difficulty, even though I wear a yellow jacket, is that I'm only one. And so I try and do as much as I can to be visible. And that, basically, why do you wear a yellow jacket, Rick? It's so people can flip and see me. Do you know what I mean? Earby Town Council were really keen to give me an electric bike, believe it or not, which they may still do. And that would be fantastic, wouldn't it? Because then I can get around even more places.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, the second point, these vehicle thefts that we had a spate of, and you will know because you're from Earby, we are very close to the north of West Yorkshire, and that's where they go. That doesn't mean that they're lost to sight. There was one very high-profile incident last year. It must have been October, November, or just shortly after landing on Patch, that two were recovered very quickly, really quickly through the use of trackers placed in the vehicles, and that is really important for us because it means we can find them very, very quickly. So we do occasionally have successes, and what we are good at doing, and we need to be better, and thank you for this, is telling people sometimes how good we are. Because sometimes we're great, a lot of times we drop the ball, but sometimes we have to be flipping marvellous. You know, and I think a lot of people don't recognise that either. I'm always grateful to people in Earby when they see me and say, "Blimey, we haven't seen one of you around here for a while," and I say, "Well, you weren't here last night," because I was. But then, you know, it's good. It's good when people say that, because actually, what that means, they're saying hello. So I'm very happy to say hello.
Thank you.
You are.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? The second bit of this agenda item is to highlight any community safety issues that we think aren't necessarily apparent.
Very happy to hear.
And I think the issue with the trials type bike and the quads is the one that I would highlight. David?
Yeah. What's the law with the electric bikes, with the trials bikes? Should they be registered, or because it's an electric bike, it doesn't need to be registered?
So, any vehicle that is ridden on the roads needs to be insured. An e-scooter, in the eyes of the law, and an e-bike, an e-trials bike, in the eyes of the law, is no different to a big Tesla or whatever. It's, you know, to any electric vehicle, it's an electric vehicle. It's a motorised, powered vehicle, and as such, it needs to be insured when it's on the road. You won't be able to insure it because nobody insures electric vehicles, electric scooters, electric trials bikes. They can't be insured. The reason they can't be insured is because they usually have the requirements that makes them insurable. It's a bit of a dark web thing, if you like. So, just like if your car was on the road uninsured and you were driving around it, you might get a tap on the shoulder from an RPU, Roads Policing Unit, then you would have your vehicle seized. So the same thing happens to these e-bikes and trial scooters. The difficulty is, as I said before, they see us coming, they see me in my yellow jacket, and they do one, and they are very swift and difficult to catch. There's a few ways we can catch them, I won't start talking out of shop. There are some covert things that we can do, we do. So the law is that if you buy a e-scooter or an e-trials bike, you can ride it, but only on private land. That's land that's owned and managed by you. So if you've got a massive garden with a jump track in it, crack on. Any other land, highway, and the highway includes the pavement, by the way, so highway and pavement includes the pavement. Any other land, footpaths, you cannot ride it on. Canals River Trust and other associations who manage rural pathways sometimes have a bit of a mixed view, and if we find somebody riding on a path, canal path, tow path, it's not It's public land, it's got public access, however it's mismanaged by somebody, they may have a policy on it, so it's not as easy to grab. But obviously they're getting there because they're getting on the road, so, you know. So the answer is, it's not illegal because you're breaking the law because you don't have it insured, and that's an offence of the Road Traffic Act of 1988 to ride an uninsured vehicle on the road or highway.
And should the residents get video footage of this, would there be somewhere where they could send it?
Lancashire Police have a really good website. You can upload dash cam and other footage to the website, specifically for motoring offences. So this is a motoring offence, it's an uninsured vehicle on the road, so there you go, bingo. It's a motoring offence. It's just because it's got two wheels and you're 10 years old. I should state actually, by the way, and not many people know this, that if you're caught at the age of 10 riding an e-scooter, you can attract points to your licence that you don't even have yet. So they're quite often shaken by this, because I'll say you're going to go on and ride a bike, or you're going to drive a car, and you get your provisional licence, you'll find you've got 6 points on it already. So that's a really interesting point that's worth propagating. So yes, Lancashire Council website, upload that footage. It all goes to Intel. It all goes to Intel. We need this Intel partnership. We're the doing branch, you're the telling branch. Okay. Happy with that?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments, questions? Angela?
Just about speed on Colne Road between the Calvert roundabout and Earby. I think it's
It is panic, yeah.
it's
Yeah. I will bring that up at the Pendle Priorities meeting tomorrow, and we'll see if we get it up on. Yeah, you're coming off that 40, straight to the 30, you miss it, don't you? And then you've got the 50 on the other side, which is longer straight, people are going to bomb up that out, of course they are.
you're going the other way.
Am I in the right place?
A56.
Yeah,
Into
A56.
Yeah.
The Calvert roundabout to Earby down through Calvert.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're on Salterforth.
Yeah.
But I mean, both are as bad as one another, but ours is a bit more residential, so
Okay.
more problems.
Speaking on Conrad, you did say Conrad, didn't you? I talked about Calvert, so there you go, that's my mistake.
Get off the bus there sometime.
Well, it absolutely did get off the bus there. I'm often studying the bus stop and go, so. I'll get this right. So.
Once you do, everything else goes wrong.
So. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll make a note of that. I think I'll encourage me tomorrow. We'll see.
Thank
you. Yeah.
That's all right. No worries. Anything else?
Councillor Wick.
Yeah, just on that sort of more generally, obviously we don't get the road traffic figures through from yourselves at this meeting. But, I mean, you know, we're bringing up the speed, we're bringing up antisocial vehicle use quite often at this forum. And I do wonder if it would be helpful to have a back and forth dialogue, you know, through this section of the meeting around those figures. So where are the incidents happening? Where are the crashes happening?
Okay.
Because I mean, a lot of that stuff, it's not just down to enforcement. It's not just police. It's road design. It's, you know, what else is in the built environment that is causing these things to happen.
Absolutely right.
I feel like if we're conscious of that and we look at it holistically, we can, you know, push things to try and get those resolved in a non-enforcement way that are much more long-lasting.
I completely accept that and embrace that wholly. It's absolutely right. You know, you just said the built environment is this is the environment we will live in.
Yeah.
You know, and we've been dealing with roads that are long and straight for years and years and years because they're built like that because they make less noise. Fortunately, with the cars the way they are now, we can just do silly things. But yes, I'll bring that up tomorrow at the priority meeting.
It's not necessarily the place where the cars are fastest that cause the most damage or the most harm, is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us know. Thank you for letting us know on that. Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing further, Rich, we're going to thank you very much for coming along.
You're welcome.
We do appreciate you coming. It's not to denigrate your efforts. I think you're doing a cracking job on your own, but you could do with some colleagues working in the area alongside you.
I feel very strongly the same way, don't you?
Yeah.
Very strongly. I plough a lonely furrow, but at least we're ploughing it. We're just ploughing it, so there you go.
thank you very much. We'll let you get off, and hopefully you'll have somebody with you next time round.
Yeah,
Or
I'll bring that up as absolutely.
in the meantime, we might even see a new CDM.
Yeah, who knows? See a CDM. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for your attention, thank you for your time, thank you for listening, and see you later. Thank you.
Right, we're going to go on to the one planning application that we've got, and councillors have got an updated report in front of us, which I'm going to ask Mr Watson just to go through, and then we've got the agent with us this evening who wants to speak on the item. So, Mr Watson, for a start.
Thank you, Chairman. There are a number of outstanding, a number of matters in the main report and recommended review, so that the applicant has come back in with further information such as on drainage, there's a revised layout and some work on trees, but also other work that they want to look at that they haven't done. There are some retaining structures at the east side of the site. I've got my geography drains, and that's one of the issues we have, the overbearing impact that we want to go away and work on. So, Chairman, we've had a situation like this before. We had it at Cobb Lane, where the council made a decision and didn't allow the applicant time to look at revisions, and it led to an award of costs against us at appeals. So, Chairman, the recommendation is not to be determined this evening, for it to be brought back with a more comprehensive report when the applicants submitted further details.
Okay, so the recommendation is to defer this.
It is, yes.
Awaiting further reports. Do you want to give us your 5 minutes? Sorry.
Yeah, it's not going to be 5 minutes.
Okay. If you want to come down here, you will be on camera. It's entirely up to you.
Can you hear me from here? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, councillors. As per the contents of your case officer's report, the proposed development is acceptable in principle, given the site is in a sustainable location and part of the site is already committed for housing, as confirmed in the council's current housing supply. The application is here before you, as you've heard, with a revised recommendation to defer the application to a future committee. This is because additional responses are awaited from important statutory consultees relating to drainage, and also to address the comments relating to residential immunity that I was just mentioned. Discussions with the case officer are ongoing on these matters, and positive progress has been made to date. The scheme itself will make a beneficial contribution to boosting housing supply in accordance with the NPPF, and will help the council by contributing to meeting the new government minimum housing requirements. The termination of the application in its current state would therefore be premature. On that basis, we request that you follow the case officer's revised recommendation to defer determination of the application until revised consultation comments are received from important statutory consultees. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know whether the committee are going to accept deferral or not. I'll look for a proposal in a bit. In terms of the report that we've got, it says Lancashire County Council's highways have responded, confirmed that they are satisfied with the submitted details and raised no objection subject to various conditions. And I'm quite flabbergasted by that. There have been 2 fatalities at the point where the road changes from Salterforth Road Earby to Earby Road Salterforth, and the County Council, I would have thought, would have had a greater mind to address road safety issues. So perhaps when this comes back, we could have a greater examination of what exactly is being done in order to make that road safer. The provision for pedestrians is inadequate, and we've got a situation where there's an approved application on the opposite side of the road, which originally was from Cross Construction, and this is a completely independent development. We've got a situation where Applethwaite are involved down Gisborne Road in Brogden Lane, where there are multiple applications. In fact, in that neck of the woods there are 3 applications, all of which have highway requirements on them, but some of them haven't been done. There's arguments about who's responsible for one and the other, and in this situation, if the development on one side of the road requires a pedestrian link, but the one on the opposite side doesn't, because there's going to be one on the opposite side of the road, where on earth do we stand if one of the developments doesn't go ahead and we end up with no pedestrian link whatsoever? I'm aware that land has been purchased by a third party in order to provide an improved pedestrian route up there from a householder, but you know, none of these figures. So I think the whole thing's a mess and likely to become an even bigger mess in the future. So I do hope that there's some discussions amongst the different parties, including the County Council, in order to see whether we can get a sensible solution to what's going on. And the other issue, which is yet to be determined, is the drainage, where I think one of our number, their mobile phone ended up in the drink because of the surcharging manholes as you came down Earby Road, and if you came down Salterforth Road, and we've seen the circumstances where multiple manholes are surcharged with combined sewage fountaining up, 5 feet into the air because of the pressure it's under. The water is going to go somewhere, and it's not going to help with the existing problems that there are. So I think there are a lot of questions about this, and I'll obviously keep an open mind for when we discuss it next time round, but I think, pardon the pun, there's quite a lot of water to go under the bridge to satisfy me. I don't know about the rest of the committee on the issues that are outstanding. Any further comments?
Yeah,
Councillor Hartley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, my thing is it's road safety. It really is up there, because if you've got to walk, if you're in Salterforth School, say, and you've got to walk down there, you can't walk to Salterforth School. You've got kids that are up there in new houses. They're looking for schools. You're going to have to walk into Earby, you're going to have to walk to Kelbrook and up Salterforth Road. Now, Lancashire County Council have already said that's their preferred route for anybody to walk to school rather than walk up Salterforth Road, because Salterforth Road is a danger. So, we really need to work on that. Parking, passing, children playing, all road safety issues. And when they say, well, housing supply, I think we've enough housing already to meet the government's projected figures. We don't need any more building on greenfield sites. Let's use up brownfield sites to start with. But yeah, we've got to give them a chance to come back. But I really don't see a need for another housing estate on the edge of Earby, and we've got to share. The infrastructure's not there. We've no dentists, we've no doctors, we've no nothing that can cope. We haven't. There's nothing there. I'm sorry, but we need more infrastructure, better roads, before we even consider, and finishing the housing projects that have already started. And let's see if all those houses sell, and we find ourselves that we need more housing, then let's build more houses. But let's wait and see the ones that have been built first. And they're not affordable houses, and they're not houses for people to get the foot on the market anyway. So,
yeah, I mean we already have literally hundreds of houses under development in West Craven, and on the current housing numbers, they more than satisfy the supply. You know, I'm fearful that we'll end up getting swamped with the number of applications that we know are in the offing already. So never mind the ones that are probably going to come along in future. Any further comments? I think committees agreed to defer this.
I have to agree with David. I just received this as I was coming out tonight, and all right, it's deferred, but I agree with everything you said.
Thank you. And Joyce speaks as a representative from Salterforth Parish Council. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, I would like to see a connection through to Kelbrook with this.
Kelbrook?
A footpath link.
To Kelbrook? You don't mean Kelbrook, do you?
You know, that is sort of the missing link there for pedestrians to move around West Craven. And that connects through to the Bridle Way as well, over towards Glenormswick. I mean, that would be the key piece of infrastructure which, you know, allows movement of people there properly and safely. That would make developments like this palatable, somewhat, for some people. Yeah, I move that we defer this to a future meeting, give the developers the time they've asked for.
Okay. Any further comments? Susan?
I will second that.
Okay.
And also agree with everything that is said, and also what Councillor Whip said about the footpath, because that was my first thought as well, that how dangerous it is and how far the alternative is for children to get to school, to their nearest school, as the crow flies, but miles away to walk right round, and very dangerous that way, I think, too.
Okay. Thank you very much. So it's moved and seconded that we defer this. Representatives from the parish councils aren't allowed to vote. Those in favour of deferral, please show. Thank you very much. That's carried. So we'll await this coming to a future meeting. You never know. It might be the one on the 1st of April. I won't say April, but that meeting, just for the benefit of anybody who may be coming to it, will be at New Road Community Centre, because we will be dealing with the planned application for the land off Combe Road, next to Brookfield Way. So that's New Road Community Centre, Tuesday, 1st of April, 6:45. Okay, I'm going to change my glasses again. Item 5B is a report on appeals, planning appeals. Would somebody move that we receive that? Thank you very much. Item 6 is enforcement action. We'll just go through these in some detail. So the first two, we have Wardle Stories for office blocks, and in both cases the case is being prepared for prosecution. Any timeline on that, Neil?
Chairman, I've made a note. I'll ask Emma Barker tomorrow where we are with it, but she's aware we are preparing a case to prosecute.
Okay.
Chair, can I just, obviously these were before my time, you guys are up to date on these. What is the problems with these? I know there might be hundreds.
There are issues about parking, there are issues about surfacing, there's issues about a bridge across into the North Block and getting parking in there, so there are a few issues.
All right, okay, yeah, because it's obviously before my time, so I did come up every month and just nice to know what they're up for.
Out of nausea.
I mean, the big issue is that on the, I can't remember, it's the North Block, the parking was supposed to be provided within the building and accessed by the girders that they've already put in across the watercourse, and they don't have consent from the Environment Agency to do that, and as a consequence that has never happened. That block has got people living in it, but according to the requirements that there were, it shouldn't have been occupied until everything was T's crossed and I's dotted. Unfortunately, the original, forgive me, it wasn't a permission. These two properties were turned into residential without any requirement for a change of use. Mr Watson will correct me if the terminology is wrong, but essentially the government relaxed the rules and said, you could use certain buildings for residential without getting planning permission. So we've always been on the back foot because it was only the sort of peripheral issues that they had to get planning permission for. The principle of using it for residential we couldn't prevent. Not that we might have wanted to, but we would have been able to better control it if that relaxation hadn't been in place. So, Mr Watson, have I said anything that's wrong?
Nothing, Chair. I know it's complex. To be honest, I'll have to go. I think we wrote a report on it. I'll see if I can dig that out and send it around again.
No, they come up every month and it was before my time. So.
Okay, the next, and again this is a block because it's two issues concerning the same development, which is Lane Ends Close at the end of Greenfield Lane there, and the company and directors have been back in court in respect of this. The whole thing is unsatisfactory. I referred to it, I think it was the last meeting, where it all goes back to a planning consent that the County Council gave to put the whole road in for United Utilities when they did improvement work at the sewage works, and the land ought to have been dedicated as highway, but the County Council never did that. As a consequence, there's this third-party land that couldn't be part of the development and couldn't be part of the highway, and the developers have just left it in a complete mess. They've left the residents in the lurch, and they appear to have no interest whatsoever in redressing the situation. They just walked away from it and left everybody sitting high and dry. Mr Watson, where do we go from here? I dare say back to court again, but that doesn't actually get the situation on the ground resolved.
Chairman, it's a difficult one because we can't force them to do work on a third-party land. They really have to go and try and secure that land. If you recall, Chairman, it was an inspector's appeal decision where they put a condition on, so we were left in a position where, as a council, we couldn't insist that they got permission beforehand because the planning inspector had already put that condition on. It's a good job that we find the directors personally and didn't go to the companies, because the companies are being dissolved and being transferred to others. So, Chairman, I think we've got no other option but to prosecute the individuals who were showing absolutely zero interest in discussing it with us at all.
At the previous meeting I did refer to meeting with the County Council and any other interested parties in order to try and resolve the issue regarding the islands of land. I mean, the footpath they're supposed to be putting in behind that third party land, but I mean, United Utilities own it. It should have been dedicated to the highway. It doesn't seem, if there was a will by Lancashire County Council, that it would have been possible to actually resolve it. But I mean, the whole thing, I mean, it's just a rubbish-strewn, rubble-strewn mess on the entrance into Ballywick. It's a disgrace. So, can I reiterate my desire to try and go round that route in order to address some of the issues that there are, but obviously there are other issues to do with the development that need resolving as well. Is the committee agreeable to that? Yeah. Okay. That takes us to Salterforth and the construction surface water management plan for the earthworks. Do you know, Neil, has that come to anything?
We've got an application in, Chairman. I haven't looked at it today because Alex Cameron, the case officer, is dealing with it, but we have an application in at least. So it's partially done.
Thank you. And finally, and I referred to the issues where we have overlapping applications and highway works. I do know that Applethwaites have carried out some highway works in this area which may satisfy some of the issues that we have with them. But the critical bit of this is the flooding. Do we have any indication that they're actually coming forward with proposals to address that?
Chairman, they've come in with proposals. They've got the conditions about the height of land, which doesn't go across the affected property. It goes to the one next door, so we need a cross-section through the affected house, which is the bottom right of the development site. Forgive me if I can't get my north, east and south correct. They've also put land levels in there, which I've asked Alex to look at, because in my view it raises into the site and still doesn't allow water to discharge onto the site from off-site, which is part of the planning condition. So the case officer, I've asked them to chase that and to get specific comments from the local flood authority on the revised drainage information facility. Okay,
you'll forgive me, but I've not got a great deal of confidence with the lead local flood authority, which is the County Council, on the flooding issue that was reported at the last meeting. The County Council's response was, well, we cleared the gully out, we don't think there's a problem. And clearly that's not the case. And I think I did send you several pictures of the flooding over a protracted period of time, and until water starts to flow uphill, I don't think that there's going to be a solution without doing some engineering works, which involves getting it past the land that they've raised the level of. So I look forward to seeing a positive result on this one.
Chairman, I forwarded those photographs, I think it was one photograph actually that I sent to the lead local floods, so they have got those as of the developers, so I haven't spoken to Alex, but I did speak to him at the end of last week and he was chasing that up.
Lovely, thank you. Anything further on that? No? Can we note that report then? Item 7, Area Committee Budget. You can see that there's a great deal of nothing left available in the current financial year. There's £205.85 remaining in the budget from last year. This was originally allocated towards litter and dog waste bins. Could I suggest that we allocate it to litter and dog waste bins again? Yeah? Lovely. Thank you very much. That's agreed. Item 8, winter maintenance. We have a letter from Lancashire County Council about winter maintenance. Goes into great length about how many thousands of miles of thousands of miles of roads that they maintain, blah de blah de blah de blah, and it says we continuously restock Lancashire grit bins during the winter period. Well, yeah, but they leave it about a week and a half after they've all emptied before they start refilling them, and then it takes forever to do it. On the third paragraph down on the back page, I can confirm that we treated priority footways, and goes on to say, therefore we arranged additional support to treat our priority footways. Now, as someone who actually got the shovels out and started clearing the snow off the footways in West Craven, I think this is just a nonsense. On the website, the County Council boasts that they've got 50 little gritters to do pavements, but we didn't see a single one of those 50 little gritters doing any pavements in town. And previously they've had contractors who have had little quads, little gritters on the back. Jim Mallender used to do it, won't do it anymore because Lancashire County Council didn't pay all the little contractors at one point, and they all walked away and won't do it anymore. So it's a ridiculous situation where the county councillor, like saying, "Well, we did it all and it was rubbish," because the people who did do it were Mr. Walker's staff, the hand sweeper and operatives from Pendle Council's cleansing department, and volunteers such as myself and Sam from the Town Council office did outside the Civic Hall in Barwick on Station Road. So, it's just, a pack of misinformation, I'll call it that. And then it goes on in the penultimate paragraph, two things that wind me up here. Although we cannot grit every road in Lancashire, we have identified some of our second most important roads. We will treat these where practical, but only in daylight hours, during periods of continuous snow and ice, and after we have cleared the higher priority routes. Dockcliffe Road in Kelbrook is one of these. And then it goes on to say, final sentence, Rain Hill Crescent is one of our secondary routes, and we have treated this route during this winter period. Now, I've got photographic evidence to show that they did not grit, treat, clear, or in any other way touch Rain Hill Crescent between the period that the snow and ice began and the time when it all started to melt. I think they had been along it a few weeks previous to that. So they're not lying when they say we have treated this route during this winter period. They're just being a bit disingenuous. And given that there are 2 care homes, one at the very top of Rain Hall Crescent, not Rain Hill Crescent, and the other one part way down. And it is quite steep at the bottom, and you could go down it in a vehicle. I wouldn't fancy coming up it. So how on earth ambulances, undertakers were able to manage, I'm not very sure. But this whole response is utterly inadequate.
I think Chair, Rain Hill Crescent, I think, lies off Albert Square.
Pardon?
I think Rain Hill Crescent lies off Albert Square.
Oh, it's off Albert Square, is it? Okay. Is this the issue, Joanne, where we asked if the county councillors would come along to discuss? Yeah. We don't have any county councillors here present, and I don't think we've got one non-response and one refusal, haven't we?
One's quite content with the response analysis.
Content, yeah. So I don't look for any help from our elected county council representatives, but yeah. Anyway, I don't know what we do with this because we haven't got anywhere else to go apart from the electorate. Any further contributions on that?
There is none.
No. All right. So can we resolve to receive the response with dismay? Joanne, I probably want to put that in diplomatic language. Yeah. Anything? No. Right. Dismay it is then. Item 9. Flooding issues in Earby. We had a very useful meeting with Mr Walker and Mr Worley, the 2 managers who deal with these issues, and came up with a plan of action. We have now got a date for a walk around to look at what there is there, and it's quite sad really that things have been allowed to slip, because we could get flooding at the drop of a hat, especially during the summer if we have a thunderstorm up on the hillside there. And the most worrying thing for me is that Earby Town Council have said they would not provide sandbags or funding for flood alleviation activities. Now, the Town Council actually own the deployable pump, so if that isn't being looked after and if it isn't available to deploy if necessary, I think we're up the creek now to paddle. And the Town Council also want to say that members would not be involved in flood warden activity. And previously, Earby Town Council has been really positive, has been a force for good in dealing with flooding in Earby, and the members have been some of the key personnel that have actually made the community flood response work. So I would like to invite Earby Town Council to meet with us to discuss this and hopefully come to a satisfactory resolution to make sure that things are sorted out. In the meantime, we have got a plan of action to do what we can in terms of the various actions that are listed here, and I'm hopeful that the Environment Agency will be positive in helping to organise a refresh of that community flood plan. Colleagues, Susan.
Can I ask who owns these containers on Booth Street?
On
Where the pump is.
on the car park.
Boot Street, it
Boot-
should be,
Boot,
not Booth.
not
That's
Boot.
what threw me.
Yes. Well, there's the containers on Boot Street on the car park. There's also one in the car park at New Road Community Centre, and there's one in the car park in front of Shaw Square, and there's one at the Rec. Now,
It was the pump I was thinking about, because Earby Town Council have nothing to do with any of those containers then.
well, I thought in part the town council bought at least some of the containers because they got a grant. I think it was £10,000 from the Community Fund for Lancashire, something like that.
That's right.
And so I think that they are in part the owners, if not of all of them, certainly of some of them. And previously they've bought sandbags, so that there were sandbags that could be put out. Mr. Walker, are you?
Without checking, Chair, I wouldn't know with the ownership of the containers, but that you are for Earby Town Council awarded some from them purchased. And they have certainly purchased sandbags in the past for residents' use.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So,
What's the process in terms of potentially transferring assets from one town council to another body if they agree to it? Is that something that can be done, or does it depend on how it's purchased?
That's what I'm...
well, I'm not sure who would be the responsible authority. I mean, I'm familiar with what happens in Barley, where the town council has a couple of containers which are for flood resilience, and the town council buys sandbags. If Earby Town Council are sort of saying, well, no, we're not interested in any of that. I mean, as an area committee, but it's not a sustainable solution, and in particular not a sustainable solution if the area committee's funding is being used for looking after Earby Memorial Park. But, you know, we could sort of oil the wheels a bit, but we couldn't take ownership of stuff that isn't ours. I don't think, you know, we'd have the authority as an area committee.
I'm thinking more of if it could be transferred to the flood warning community scheme, and then potentially get some sort of funding for maintenance and upkeep from other sources. Would that be something that we could pursue? I don't want to go down the line of sort of teeing somebody up who might be interested in maintaining it if we can't get our hands on it.
Okay. The flood warden scheme is it's a voluntary activity.
Yeah, but it's not then transferring it to us at Barnoldswick to upkeep, if you know what I mean. But it takes it out of the, well, it brings it back into circulation so it can be used. That's the big thing around it. Is I'm personally not bothered who owns it. I'm bothered about it being accessible and usable when it's needed.
Absolutely. I think the difficulty, I'll bring it in a minute, so I think the difficulty is that the flood wardens aren't like a legal entity, so they couldn't own property.
Okay.
And whether that, you know, it's possible to constitute them in such a way that they could, I don't know. yeah, you're probably getting into a bit of a minefield. But the simplest solution would be for the town council to continue to look after stuff.
Yeah.
Susan?
Oh, well, that was my thought. If the pub is meant to be owned by the town council,
Yeah.
and that container, and they don't want anything to do with it, how are we supposed to do anything with it at that point?
Well, as I
Because
said,
it needs maintaining,
Yeah.
and we need access for the flood wardens.
yeah, as I said in the meeting, if push comes to shove and we needed to get the pump out, we'd get the angle grinder going and cut the lock off and get it out. You know, completely uninsured. And you know, as far as anybody's concerned, we're stealing it. Well, no, not stealing because not intending to deprive permanently, but you know, it's just not a satisfactory state of affairs. So, you know, I think, you know, I'm not sure if the town council are. Oh right, sorry. Okay, so
Scott Walk and Woolley, not Walk.
right.
Ford, it just gave reflux.
Okay, I'm seeing this. All right.
Sorry, so it's just on that today.
Okay. Right. So, in respect of the pump, Phil Guy, who deployed it previously, has access to the pump and is continuing to maintain it on behalf of the town council. Right. Okay. It also says the town council are not going to be supplying any sandbags going forward. So I do think we need to sit down with the town council and try and get a you know, a sensible discussion about who's doing what, who can do what, and make sure that we're not left in the lurch. It's you know, 9 years since we had the serious flooding on Boxing Day 2015. We had a further incident in September 2016 when there were properties flooded on Water Street, and I'm just fearful that you know, everything goes off the boil, nobody's paying attention, and then come July, August, we have a flash flood, and everybody turns around and, you know, saying, well, why didn't you do this, why didn't you do that, why didn't you do the other? I think, you know, we need to get a grip on this, and that's certainly the intention. So let's meet with the town council, and let's carry on with the plan of action that we've set out. I think there's some interesting developments that make you reported, and we can explore those and put that forward as well. As for sandbags, whenever people want sandbags, I say, well, come and take some from Barlick, but don't tell people in Barlick. The last person from Earby to take sandbags out to the Barlick container let me know that they brought them back the other day. So, there you go. Anything further on this? Sorry. David, do you want to say that out loud?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. There was at the meeting there was a discussion around the Sough, I think it was Sough, on Water Street. And I think we wanted to raise it at this meeting so we could bring it to Yorkshire Water's attention, but it needed some maintenance or renewal.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, in fact there were references to 2 surface water or combined sewers, one on Water Street and the other one on Earby Road, or sorry, Salterforth Road, not Earby Road, on Salterforth Road, where I've referred to the surcharging earlier on. So Scott reports that he has reminded Yorkshire Water, but has not yet received a response. So if we can include in the resolution a formal request to Yorkshire Water to discuss those issues with us. And we did have a meeting with them, I'm going to say 15 months ago, something like that. Perhaps my timescales are a bit wrong, but we did have a useful meeting with them, but everything goes quiet and you don't hear anything further. So, meeting with Earby Town Council, agree the plan of action that was set out, and plead to Yorkshire Water to deal with the outstanding issues on Water Street and Salterforth Road. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Are we happy with that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Groundwater issues at Wentcliffe Drive. So the position with Wentcliffe Drive is that a few years ago groundwater as opposed to surface water started to well up, making some of the gardens into bogs, and this coincided with contractors working for Together Housing drilling ground source heat pump boreholes. The two things were linked in people's minds, and subsequently Pendle Council got some survey work done, and the consultants who did that work said that the contractors hadn't followed the proper processes in putting the boreholes in, and that the likelihood is that they had drilled through an impermeable layer, and that had allowed the water to come up. However, that is not definitive, but is the most likely cause of the groundwater coming out of the ground. Pendle Council doesn't have any assets in the area, doesn't have any legal interest in any of this, but has been trying to help as much as Pendle Council could in facilitating investigations, getting some work done in the highway in order to stop water running over the pavements, but the basic problem is still there. So a bit since we asked the authorities who have an interest, have legal interest because of land ownership and the like, if they would join with residents in taking legal action against Together Housing or their contractors over the borehole and the failure to follow the proper process with that. We've got a response from Earby Town Council, and it says members are of the view that the impact of groundwater on their assets was minor and did not warrant seeking redress through taking action against other parties. And whilst members expressed empathy with the residents affected, it was not considered an issue that was within the remit of other powers of Earby Town Council to be engaged in. For these reasons, Earby Town Council resolved not to send a representative to any meeting to discuss taking action against Together Housing and their contractor. The response from Lancashire County Council, they have no current reports regarding flooding or highlighting an issue with their surface water drainage infrastructure. Whilst they have repaired 2 to 3 defects on this road during this period, well, they could have repaired 20 to 30 because there's a lot more than 2 to 3. Anyway, whilst they've repaired 2 to 3 defects on this road during this period, they say this fails to suggest significant evidence that their asset is compromised or needs intervention. If they consider the need to undertake legal action, this would need to be directed at the adjacent property owner rather than looking at the root cause, suggesting together housing and the installation of ground source heat pumps. So, unfortunately, this is an issue that we're not getting anywhere with. And to compound the problem, the development of declaring interest as a director of Pearl Together here, the neighbouring development of Bailey Street, which is going on apace, the surface water was intended to be dealt with a cut-off drain to the rear of the properties on Wentcliffe Drive, and for that then to go into the attenuation system that is being constructed to deal with the surface water runoff from the hard surfaces. However, Yorkshire Water said that the water from the cut-off drain could not go into the attenuation scheme, and the developers have drawn up an alternative proposal which to my mind is worse than useless, because what they intend doing now is digging a 5-foot deep trench, filling it with stone and having a porous pipe at the bottom of it, but for there to be no discharge point. So in other words, they'll dig this trench, fill it with stone, this trench will fill with water, presumably not only from the surface water but from the groundwater. It will be permanently full of water, and the water will continue to flow into the properties downstream on Wentcliffe Drive. Now, if that happens, I think Pearl Together will be partly culpable, because they'll have done something that isn't helping the situation but potentially making it worse. So the matter becomes even more complicated, and on that score I think if we could formally resolve to request Pearl Together not to install a 5-foot trench without any discharge point, but to revert back to the original proposal to have a cut-off drain that would deal with the surface water. That would be a bit more sensible. As to the rest of it, I don't know where we go. Pendle Council hasn't any legal locus with this whatsoever. So apart from advising residents that you're on your own, folks, I don't know. I'm at a loss. Various shapes of head. I'm looking, there's nobody saying no.
What to say?
What can we do?
Well, we can perhaps do something with Pearl Together, which is the cut-off drain, but that doesn't impact on the groundwater issue at all. It does away with any surface water that might run on to Wentcliffe Drive, but not the groundwater. Susan.
As Pendle councillors, we can only do things that Pendle are involved with, surely.
Which is why we asked those parties that do have land in that area.
Yeah.
Anything further?
There's nothing to be said, Chair. I mean, it's without, someone starting the ball who's in the court, there's nothing to do, is there? It's a dead duck.
Well, I've never accepted that there's never nothing that we can do, if you get me, Jim. But, yeah, I mean, the Town Council refused to meet with us to discuss it. Perhaps, you know, residents in that area might want to lobby the Town Council to see whether they would do something. But that's up to them. We can't organise that. Okay, so are we noting the report and resolving to do the thing with Pearl together about the cut-off drain?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, we're good with that? Thank you very much. Item 11, Royal Mail deliveries. Unfortunately, I haven't got my right notepad, so I will look to colleagues who were at the visit. Susan. Chris isn't here. So we met with the West Pennine Service lead and somebody called Tim Bulmer, who showed us all these empty frames at the delivery office. Well, they weren't quite empty. There was one frame that had one round in it, and I think they'd left that there so that it didn't look suspiciously fully empty. And if Mr. Bulmer's watching, I admire the fact that he shipped in several managers in order to get rid of any backlog. It's regrettable that the undelivered parcels were stuffed into a van in the yard, and that you know, the attempts to hoodwink us into believing that the situation was absolutely wonderful didn't succeed. I have had one or two people get in touch with me about specific instances where post has been delayed after our meeting with them. Mr. Bulmer did give us contact details to get in touch with him direct, and I'm happy to share that with council colleagues. So if anybody has any continuing problems with delayed post, if they let us know individually what those issues are, giving specifics about the delivery address, when stuff is posted, and so on and so on forth. Mr. Bulmer did agree that he would look into all those instances. We'll take him at his word, but I think there was a bit of manipulation prior to the visit, which was subsequently exposed by staff and other people. So, Joanne, I'll give you a more comprehensive note when I find my notepad. Yeah. Anything on that one, Susan? You were there.
Well, because I was there, yes. No, I think that's quite a good summary. It was just a bit disappointing to be told that well, everything's fine now, we've sorted all the problems out, and then for people to be reporting the day after that there was still mail going missing and mail not received.
Yeah, yeah. But if we want to take anything forward, we do need the specifics.
Yes, addresses, dates, etc.
That'll allow us to get the cudgels out again. Item 12 is environmental blight. The one that we've got on the agenda is West Close, Lorry Park. Mr. Walker, it distresses me every time I go down there because there's some fresh dumping happened in the perimeter of the Lorry Park. you know, particularly on the stock banking. And you say that the cameras are deployed there. Have we actually caught anybody?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, there have been 3 incidents caught on camera and are currently under investigation. So, yeah, the cameras are proving useful.
Are we going to see any public floggings? I mean, any public prosecutions?
I wouldn't know at this stage.
Okay.
To be honest, I wouldn't like to.
All right.
Further away.
So, if you identify somebody, you give them if it's benefit notice and they pay, you can't publicise that. It's only if you take them to court.
That's right, Chair. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, in order to publicise this, we want somebody that we've got banter rights, but they don't pay.
Yes, exactly, Chair.
But through you, Chair, we will. You can report that fixed penalty notices have been issued, can't you?
We will report through the environmental crime report that comes out on a quarterly basis, so you will see something.
Yes.
Some action being
I
taken.
mean,
And it will
obviously
tell the
not names
location.
and addresses, but the fact that things have been issued. Thank you.
Yeah, but that report is taken in private.
Right.
We don't
Yes.
see that,
Yeah.
so we couldn't publicise the fact that, you know, somebody's got a fine for dumping down there. Yeah. Are we noting that? Item 13, outstanding items. We have got a response from the Integrated Care Board. And Joanne, do you want to summarise what it says?
I haven't read it.
It did come a little while ago, and thank you very much. It's headed private and confidential, so it runs to a page and a half. It goes on to say about the national position. At the local level, the ICB has recently approved a number of new initiatives and pilots. The new programmes that will be implemented over the coming months continue to secure access to urgent dental care for those in immediate need of support, target routine care for the most vulnerable patients, and promote oral health aimed at supporting the population to maintain good oral health. As a result, we are seeing an increase in dental access for our local population. However, we are conscious some locations may require additional support to recover to acceptable levels of access. We will continue to work closely with the NHS dental providers in the Earby area to improve access. As always, if any constituents have any urgent care need, the helpline is 0300 1234 010, and they can provide advice, support and an appointment where this is required. Thank you for your time, sharing your concerns, blah 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 blah. So this is from if you have the right to contact the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman if you wish to discuss this matter further, they give the email address and contact details for that. So, I mean, I'd describe that as a bit of a brush off. I'm not sure there's anything specific about providing additional stuff in Earby or indeed in West Craven. Comments? Are you all bludgeoned into submission? Yes, Councillor Witt.
Entirely tangential to that. But I mean, there's so many, clinic services across Lancashire which have just been completely sort of worn down with budget cuts. I've only just recently learned that, like, you know, the sexual health clinics, there's only one in East Lancashire in Burnley. You know, if you're a 16-year-old and you're looking to get an STI test, are you travelling to Burnley by yourself? And I just think that's kind of shocking. I mean, it used to be a Bucks clinic, you know, hyper-local, and everything's just been centralised so much that it's just completely inaccessible. I mean, we're talking about Colne being too far for people in West Craven, and yet it's people in Pendle having to go out to Borough. And that's at sort of every level now, across all services in the NHS. I mean, just the pure amount of budget cuts that just, you know, cause degradation there. Just something else.
Yeah, I mean, on the wider issue, we've got the scandal of the so-called Newtown Clinic, where there is only the Airedale midwives in occupancy there. They're rattling about. I don't know what 80% of the building is unused. Such a scandal. And this building here at the Rail Centre used to have a treatment room, which the NHS paid to install. It was used for a time, and then it couldn't be used during or immediately after COVID because of air circulation. I can't remember the exact thing. They never came back, and ultimately they paid many more thousands of pounds to restore the room, or the two rooms actually, to the previous condition. So they ripped out all the treatment stuff, you know, the stuff that made it hygienic, and walked away from it. And in this building there's a diabetic eye clinic, and there's one clinic every so often, but half the people who need to be seen in West Craven end up having to go to Colne because they don't have enough capacity here to run two clinics. It's bizarre. I despair. However, this is dental health. There was a specific complaint. I mean, I'll feed back the response that we've got to the person that complained to me, but I don't think they're going to be very happy. Okay. Can we note the report? Yep. Thank you very much. The other one is proposed maintenance works to Earby Memorial Park at Sough, and we do have some good news that we have secured a little bit of funding to help do a decent job there, despite Earby Town Council withdrawing their funding. As I understand it, Calbrook and Sough Parish Council yet to make a decision, and we're looking at what we can do with the available resources. Hopefully on the Calbrook and Sough side on the 19th, we'll be able to have a decent level of looking after, at least on the Calbrook and Sough side of the beck.
Yeah.
So
we just want to see some tangible benefits for the money we're putting in.
Absolutely.
And we are going to have it on the agenda at our next parish council meeting. But the only evidence I've got at the moment is supportive of supporting the park. We've spoken to the Wentcliffe. We've had 2 emails of support. I've heard negative anecdotal evidence, but I've not seen anything yet that's negative. So the only thing we've had are positive so far.
Good. Thank you very much. I'm still available on Saturday to have an open session for people to come along and have a say about what we'd like to see happening at Earby Memorial Park at Sough, and you know, take it from there really. Okay, can we note the position? Yeah. Item 14 is exclusion of public and press because of the disclosure of exempt information which is likely to reveal the identity of an individual. Is somebody going to move that? Thank you very much. All those in favour, please show. Sorry we've got to kick you out. I hope you enjoyed the experience.